Hey everyone, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Popple, and today I'm bringing on an exciting guest, Jeremy Perez. So Jeremy and I met at 10X GrowthCon, the final GrowthCon that was hosted previously this year. So we connected there, started talking about real estate, and come to find out, Jeremy has been doing fix and flips and burrs for a while. He is a partner in Wolfpack LLC that was originally started by his father. He is a graduate of Purdue and with a degree in construction management. And he has been doing the fix and flips and burrs for the past several years and is currently switching over to multifamily and commercial real estate. So, and I forgot to leave out, he is only 23 years old, which is a big highlight, doing a whole lot at such a young age. So without further ado, let's bring on Jeremy Perez. What's going on, Jeremy?
How's it going, man?
Oh, man, another great day in paradise. Excited to have you on the podcast, man. Like I said, it was really cool connecting with you up at GrowthCon. And honestly, man, until you sent me your bio, I had no idea you were only 23 years old. That is awesome. I love talking to young entrepreneurs. I'm 35 myself, so I love talking to people younger than me because it makes me look at like, man, I gotta step my game up because this guy's gonna catch me. So I like I said, I love to hear people getting started earlier than I got started. So man, that's congratulations on that. But let's just go and get started. Let's start from the beginning. What was life like growing up in Elkhart, Indiana, and what role did your family play in shaping you and who you are today?
So if anybody knows Elkhart, Indiana, there's not much to do out here.
I've never heard of it.
So we're a little town. It's a nice sized city. We have about 50,000 people here. But growing up here, I mean, it's kind of got that country feel on the side where I was growing up. So a lot of bonfires, a lot of being outside. So really, a lot to do. And more on the construction side and that's where I had to learn. So I guess my family growing up, my dad and they came here to the United States. We are originally from Mexico. I'm first generation here in the United States.
I love that. That's like to me what America's all about. Family coming, putting down roots. Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. So my grandpa, he came over here back in the late '80s, early '90s, and so they settled down in Elkhart, Indiana, Bristol actually, and my dad.
What made them choose all the way up in Indiana? Because there's obviously a lot of places to stop off before you get to Indiana when you're coming from Mexico to the U.S. So what was there already some people up there, or what was the driver to go up to Indiana?
They were just following work. My grandpa, he decided to come up here because he had heard about some field work out here for the corn.
Okay.
And when he did come up here, they found out that Bristol was pretty quiet place. I mean, it's it's pretty quiet. There's nothing out there. They lived in a trailer, and it was a lot of work over here, a lot of factories. We're actually number one in RV in the RV industry. So most of your RVs that you see everywhere and anywhere come from us.
Oh wow.
So he came down here and they started working in the factory after the field. He didn't want to do field anymore, so he came and worked at the factory. But yeah, so we're first generation, and I decided, my dad went to school here actually in Central High School.
Okay.
Played football, and I was actually born when he was 15.
Oh wow.
So
he got busy early.
yeah, drop out of school and start working in the factory.
Okay. Cool. Well, not well. I mean, sounds like though that I mean when I'm reading your bio that he still made a whole lot happen since he was able to found Wolfpack back in 2013. I know your family has deep roots in real estate and construction. So what was it like learning from your father and grandfather and how their skills influence your path?
Yeah, so because my dad was started working so early, his whole thing was he wanted to find something for himself, make a company that he didn't have to work for somebody else and make somebody else rich.
Wow.
So that's why um, we started this business. We started this business back in 2013. However, he had been looking into it as of 2009, looking into the auctions, looking to find something to make more money than he was at a factory. He was,
Right.
I mean, it gets tiring working at a factory for so many years.
Right.
And so back in 2009, he decided to start looking for other ways. Um, and then that's when we came across auctions, real estate auctions. And that's where everything started. My grandpa back in Mexico, he worked in construction.
Okay.
Um, he was very, very young as well before when he came down here. So he was also about 13, 14 years old when he started coming over here. But
I'm curious when he was 13, 14 coming, I mean, was he coming by himself or was he like with family or
he was with family.
okay.
But he would he never stayed over here. It wasn't until the 80s that he actually decided to come and stay. But back then he would just come and work in the field and go back. Um, and that was one of my dad's motivations as well. Have
Mhm.
something where we can do our stuff ourselves, work for ourselves and not have to worry about anything.
Yeah, I love that. So Wolfpack LLC is a family-owned business started by your father. How did it begin, and then how did you personally get involved?
I think I lost you there.
Okay, hey, I'll repeat it. Yeah, I froze for a second. So, yeah, since Wolfpack, is a family-owned business that your father started, how did it begin, and then how did you personally start getting involved?
So my dad, when he first started the business, like I said, we had started looking into auctions and going to auctions since 2009, where I was actually, once he started learning how to do it, um, that's where I had to kind of start as well,
Uh huh.
because I'm the oldest of four brothers. So I've got three other brothers, including me. I'm fourth, and I'm the
Okay.
oldest. So I had to learn the same thing that my dad was doing, so that I could help him out. And
Hmm.
so back in
How
2000,
how old how old were you at that time?
I would have been in second grade, so about 9, 10. I think that's
Okay.
right.
Yeah, man, and I just want to highlight that because I mean, I'm loving how this story is shaping out, and I think it's so cool. How your dad knew at a young age, like that. I mean, because there's a lot of people that have a child in high school and life's just over, but he it sounds like he used that as motivation, like, nah, look, I'm a man now, and I have to do man things, and
Yeah,
and he built and he like I said wanted to build that legacy for you guys, and then just I think it's just really cool how then at such a young age he was already forming you to be his business partner, and including
yeah,
you from the very beginning.
yeah. No, like I said, that was one of his biggest things, and so that is why he wanted me to learn as young as he was, because I guess the way he thought about it was, if I can do it, you can do it. And so um, I started very young looking into these auctions, and we look for auctions for tech sale auctions.
Hmm.
So that's how we started. But in 2009, we purchased our first, or he purchased our first house, which was for investment. So we bought a trailer a few streets down the road from us, and we fixed it up a little bit, and we sold it to a family friend of ours. Uh,
Nice. Do you remember what the profit was on that trailer?
we
Approximately.
we didn't profit much off of it, but
Okay.
back then, we were buying houses for really, really cheap. I mean, I think that house we bought for 5,000, I think it was,
Uh-huh.
and after fixing it or so, and then we sold it to this family friend. I think he sold it to him for about 25, I want to say.
Okay, cool. I mean, did y'all have to put a whole lot into it?
No, we didn't put much into it at all.
That sounds like y'all made a good. It still, came out pretty profitable. I mean,
Yeah,
if you bought it
yeah,
for 5, put 10 into it, you're all in it for 15. I mean, if you make 10 grand on that, I mean,
yeah.
that's
I know.
yeah,
We didn't do much, so uh,
yeah. No, I really like that. Let's rewind just a little bit because I know some of my listeners might not really know what a tax auction is or how it works out. So just explain to everybody, what that is, and how those work. And I'm gonna go ahead and preface this, guys, that this varies state by state. So what happens in Indiana's tax auctions vary, to Florida to Texas. Every state does it a little bit differently. But every state usually has something like this. So I just wanted to preface that, but I'm gonna let Jeremy go in on how it goes down in Indiana.
yeah. So every state is different. In Indiana, we have our annual tax sale auction. It's once a year. It's typically around October. From August to about September is when all throughout Indiana is pretty much the auctions.
Mhm.
Um, and it's based off of counties. So you look at the auction, you look at the list based on different counties. Um, we go out. It used to be in person. Nowadays, a lot of it is online, but at that time, it was still in person. And you basically go out and bid on whatever properties you want to bid on. You only get the parcel number, the address, and how much they owe. And a lot of the times, the tax sale minimum bid starts at whatever they owe. So a lot of the times back then, it used to be 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. You can still find some like that, but they go a lot higher. So they start off the minimum bid, and
Yes.
then
What's the typical entry on most of them today? Since back then they were that. Today, what
um,
around 10 or less?
yeah, depends. So you can still find some around 5 grand,
Okay.
but a lot of the times, you're looking at more like 10 grand
Okay.
for the minimum bid. However, a lot of people, when they're buying nowadays, they're bumping up the prices way too high. Back then, I would get houses for 5,000, 3,000, 10,000, and that was it. I'd buy two or three houses at $10,000, and then so you go out there, you buy the houses, and you have to wait a year in order to get the property yourself, because the old or the owner of the house still has a year to redeem the house.
Yeah.
And
And
the thing
don't they have to pay basically if you buy it, don't they have to then like pay you your money back plus like interest on top?
Yep, yep. So if you go past 3 months, it's a 10%, and then past 6 months, it's 15%. So it's still a better return than going to a bank and putting money into it. So
Right. I mean, and honestly, that's better than an average S&P stock market return, So, I mean, yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, if the worst case scenario is that they pay you 10% on your money in 90 days, I mean,
yep,
that's a solid worst case.
yep.
Yeah.
So we yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then after a year, you do have to file a um it's basically, you have to get a lawyer, and you basically have to sue the anybody who has a lease on it. And if nobody comes up saying, we have a lease on it, or whatever, we want the house. Then after about 60 days, 30 to 60 days, you basically get the house, and it's clear of liens.
Okay. No, that's pretty cool. So I know in our little pre-talk, when I was reading the bio you sent, you told me that a lot of the legal aspects of real estate, you've learned through trial and error. What are some of those? What were some of those things? Those like obstacles initially you guys were having to navigate and learning curves. When you first were getting into the auctions.
Yeah, so with us being with me being first generation and my father as well,
Mhm.
um, we knew nothing about pretty much lawyers. We like anything to do with real estate. Nobody in our family knew anything about real estate, so we had to learn everything by going out, asking questions, talking to lawyers, um, find and trusting lawyers that we were being sent over to. And so yeah, it is going. We've had to go to court before for properties that have had we've had to go for liens or anything going on with the property. For example, um, one of the properties that we purchased back in 2016 had a demolition order on it. Well, we knew nothing about it. I didn't what I had to do, so we had to go to the city.
And just to make sure I understand and my listeners understand, if you buy a property with a demolition order, you're like by law required to demo it. Correct? Am I understanding that right?
You have two options.
Okay.
So you can either demo it yourself, you pay the fee for that. You can have the city demo it, but well, at that time it was $10,000 for a demo. Or those are the two options. You get to demo it yourself for them, or you do a bond with the city, and that basically means you put down. At that time, we put down $10,000. It was $10,000 bond, and it pretty much said we had 6 months to finish the house. We had to completely get it up to code. We had to fix everything that they wanted us to fix for it to be to code. And I knew nothing about that. So at that point, we had to work with the city lawyers. We had to work with my lawyers, try to get that set up. And we actually had to go to court for that as well, which that was a whole thing. Um, Especially when I had to go at that point, I had to go with my mom, which I had to translate for her. She knows no English. So
Okay.
that was hard. I mean, still in high school. So
Right. No, man, and that's again, I think such a cool part of your story about because I mean just that right there, you're an important part of the family business very early because like your mom couldn't have done court without you, just said,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah. So much early education, that you got, because of that. So I mean, I think that's really cool. So you guys started focusing in real estate. You started in real estate by focusing on single family homes. Why did you choose that entry point? And then how did those first few deals go? I know we mentioned that first trailer. So tell us about like the two deals after that and why you guys chose to start with single family.
So single family was an easier concept to start with. I mean, I feel like everybody who starts in real estate is going to start in single family. It's typically what you hear. And so my dad, he decided, let's get into the single family. We already went to the auction. We bought the house. We got it for a really good price, and we turned around and sold it and made a good amount of profit.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided, let's stick. It's working. Let's stick with this.
Mm-hmm.
So we did end up buying, another property. But it would have been 2013. Would have been our next property. Um, we bought that one in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and so this was in White Pigeon, Michigan, Right. And we when we bought it at an auction that it also had a demolition on it. However, with that one, it was a little different. We didn't have to do that bond or anything like that. We just said that we were going to fix it, and we were going to fix it in 6 months as well. So the city, was like, okay, that's fine. We went ahead and we were working on it, but the thing was, we had to go every weekend, and we were working from 6 in the morning. We left the house at 6 in the morning, and we did not get back home until about 1 or 2 in the morning the
Wow.
Sunday. And then Sunday morning, we'd wake up around 10 o'clock, go over there, and then we were out there until about 5 or 6, and then we would come back home, do homework, get ready for.
It froze up on me for a second.
And we were working. We go to school, go to work during the week, and then weekends, and like that for 6 months straight.
Wow, man, that's incredible. So yeah, for 6 months, basically, whenever you weren't at school, you were working on that house.
Yes, yeah. We did not have any break, no summer break, nothing.
Right. But y'all finished it in time and got that one sold and you made some money?
Yep, yep. So when we first started the company, in order for us to start the company, what we did was my dad took out a mortgage on our house. And when he took out the mortgage on our house, we had to then he put that into the auctions, and that's how we got the first house. The first house we made it work.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what's been your approach to finding the deals? Like, when you're looking at the auction, there's a ton of properties. How do you evaluate those properties at the auction and on whether or not it's a good investment?
If it's a good price, I mean, we're not afraid to go in and buy a house where we have to do a lot of work for it, because we know at the end of the day we will end up making a lot of profit. For example, um, we had a house, worse, one of the bad houses that I had.
Mhm.
Um, it was a hoarder's house, so I had to go in, clean it up, and get it fixed. But we sold it, and when we sold it, we made a lot of drive that properties. We'll drive around, look at the properties, and try to see if the property is good enough. As long as there's a house on it, the condition doesn't really matter, as long as it's not like to the point where we're gonna be stuck again in the 6 months. You
Right.
to do fix it in 6 months.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, after that one deal, do y'all try to find ones that like evaluate to know that okay, it's not going to be a full 6 months? Like y'all try to,
yeah,
like you have an eye now for like, okay, look, if it has this and this wrong with it, we're just moving on, or like how do y'all evaluate like based on that?
yeah. So we'll go out to the properties, and we'll try to. The first thing we try to look at is the foundation. Just because if the foundation's messed up,
I
it's
was I was curious about that because I know that's a big thing. Like and everything's moving so quick. How do you evaluate the foundation?
so from the outside, you can tell a lot. If you see a bunch of cracks, you can look at the house from the front and see if it's leaning one way or the other. And if it's starting to lean, that means that the ground is not done settling, and or it could be that it is settling to the point where it's already damaged the foundation itself. So that's what we tend to look at the most. Um, Now with the roof, that's we can fix the roof. That's no big deal.
Right.
Windows, no big deal. Siding, no big deal. The foundation's pretty much the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Uh, Now with an auction, you can't go inside. You can only see it from the outside, and you buy the properties as is.
Right.
So we've had a few properties where we've had more work than intended.
Yeah, well, no, and I can imagine that, but I mean that is definitely a good point because I mean, pretty much, most of the stuff, from the slab up is stuff that people can work on mostly individually by themselves, but foundation job is a whole other animal. You got jacks and people and all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, I haven't had to do anything with the foundation, knock on wood. So I've been fortunate enough not to worry about that. But
Yeah.
I've had to do some things with some properties that uh, may not be OSHA approved.
Gotcha. So when you're flipping or burring, how do you decide which strategy to use, and what criteria helps you make that call?
Um, so it really depends on our financial at that point, because right now we've recently actually started doing the burn method. It's only been about 2 years that we've been doing the burn method,
And just
and
out of curiosity, is that because before that y'all didn't really realize like how the burr method worked, or what made y'all start doing the burr then?
yeah, we actually did not know about the burn method.
And,
It,
and I'm gonna go ahead and just pause, let everyone know. So I know we've talked about BRRR on previous episodes, but I always like to explain an acronym. So a BRRR is a B with four R's. It stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And it's a great strategy for building wealth because you instead of selling the property and having to pay a real estate commission, capital gains taxes, and closing costs, you just can refinance the property. You still have some loan costs associated with the loan, but you generally will save the 20% in taxes on capital gains and the whatever your real estate commission is going to be. Usually somewhere around 6%, give or take. So that's 26% that you get to keep through in terms of either to your net worth or cash out. So very. I'm a big proponent of the Burr method. I love it myself, but just wanted to clarify that for everyone. So you see, you guys learned about the Burr, 2 years ago as a better wealth building strategy, and that's when you guys started implementing it. Is what you said.
yeah, so it used to be we would buy the house. Like I said, we took a loan out to get the company started on our house. From that, we purchased the properties, fixed the houses using that money that we took out the loan. We
Mm-hmm.
were fixing the houses. As we were fixing the houses, um, we would either rent or sell. And the ones that we sold, we would take that money and we would invest it into the other houses that we needed fixed. Um, and then we would use whenever we ran out of the money that of the house that we sold, we would use the rents to pay for the remodels of the other houses. And so we were, a lot of the times we were selling properties that just to be able to fix the new ones that we were purchasing,
Mm-hmm.
as well as go out and purchase more.
Mm-hmm.
And so, including the rents. And so a lot of the times we would end up at zero when it came to doing taxes. So that was a good thing for us, but it also meant we weren't making any profit, uh,
Right.
because we just kept doing that. We were just doing that. And then um, in 2020, uh, we everybody started shutting down with COVID and all of that, and we had a little bit of money with from the houses that we have sold and rented, so we started buying more properties, which at that point we were buying them pretty cheap at auctions. Everything had shut down, so at that time we were buying a few houses, and we sold those. And once when we sold those, we had a bigger capital. But then we were like, okay, now what are we gonna do? Like, we have this money, but now we're gonna have to pay all these taxes. And then that's when we started learning about um, the Burr method, and we didn't actually try to start doing it until 2022. So it would have been 21 that we learned about the Burr method, and then 22 was when we decided to go ahead and try it out.
Perfect. And at that point, did y'all already have a couple rental properties that y'all had owned that y'all had owned outright since y'all bought them cheap and then rented them out? So did y'all end up doing any refis on any of those?
Yeah, actually, one of the first properties. So in 22, before we started doing the Burr method, because we wanted to do it and all that, we purchased what is now Lexington Event Center, but we didn't use any of our cash. We started learning about the leverage as well, basically the same thing as Burr,
Hmm.
and we purchased it using a few houses as leverage, uh,
Okay.
which is the building that I'm currently in right now.
Hmm.
Um, and then one of the first houses we used for the Burr method was our own house.
Okay. Cool.
We decided let's try it again. We took out a loan because the value of our property had went up.
Hmm.
Um, we took out the loan, and then we went and purchased a house, and we fixed it up. And then we decided, okay, we're gonna take that house, and we're gonna finance it because we had paid it cash from the house, and then we financed it, and um, we actually had that money, put it towards a little bit of the venue, towards the principal of that, and we went out and bought another house. So that's when we started learning. Okay, now it actually works. We know a little bit more of leverage. Let's start using the bank's money instead of our own money to buy these houses and these properties.
Yeah, I love that. So, what are some of the biggest lessons you learned from your fix and flip and Burr experiences so far?
I think the biggest lesson is for me is now we don't have to use our own money. There's ways to get money to do what we have to do without us having to take out of our own pocket. Um, and I and I think that's one concept that my family grew up not knowing.
Right.
Because everything growing up, we were always told pay for everything cash. Don't don't get in debt. Don't get in debt because then you how are you going to pay it, or you're going to be in debt forever. And it's debt is bad. Debt is bad. I mean, growing up in school, we were always told the same thing.
Hmm.
And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned, that there is good debt and there's bad debt.
Bingo. No, I'm glad you brought that up because my mom, I love her. I grew up very debt adverse because she is a penny clincher, very frugal, loves to save, loves coupons, and then likes to be debt free. You always pay your credit cards off at the end of every month. And I think that is all exactly what you're supposed to do in your personal life with your personal expenses. But when you have the opportunity to make money, that's when you take out the good debt. You don't take bad debt out to go buy a Ferrari. You take good debt out to go buy an apartment complex that's going to pay you more than what the loan is. And
Yeah.
there's a big difference there. Because it's like you can't look at all debt the same because it's definitely different if you go buy because if you go buy like take a loan to go buy a boat, you're going to have to pay that. You're going to have to go work to pay that loan off. But again, if you go do it to buy a rental property, well, your tenant's paying that loan off. So it's
Mhm.
completely different. But yeah, great. So I know you ended up going to Purdue, and you already grew up doing construction. So with the hands-on experience from your family and all the renovation work you did, how much of your renovation work do you take on yourself still, or do you end up outsourcing any of it?
So we actually do all of our work ourselves.
Okay.
Um, Most of it, I should rephrase. We do all of our work ourselves except for when we want to hurry something up. So, for example, the roof. we used to do all of our roofs ourselves, but now we have a company that will come out and do our roofs, and they'll get it done in a week while we're in a weekend
All
while
right.
we're downstairs working on something else.
No, that
So
makes sense. I just actually a roof just went on a house 3 doors down across the street from me yesterday, and it was like a 1 day job because I
oh
mean
yeah,
they showed up I think with probably like 15, 18 dudes, so I mean they had that roof stripped I think by like 10 a.m. and you know
yeah,
I already started laying. So yeah, there's just some jobs that like it's just a lot easier for you to pay a crew to come in and do versus a roof with just doing it, your dad and a couple brothers, you guys that that's a tough job.
yeah. I mean, and we've done it all of our life,
Right.
so we can get it done pretty quick. Usually, it takes us about 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
However, depending on the size, of course.
Right.
However, if I can pay somebody to get it done faster than I can, while I'm getting something else done, that's where to me it's a benefit. It's not going to benefit me more to do it myself than it is to have two things going on at the same time, where I don't have to worry about a time crunch, and it's more not of a time crunch, it's more of we want to get this done as fast as possible so that we can get it rented or we can get it sold.
Right. Well, that makes sense. So, and this question kind of goes into what you were just saying. So, how do you balance quality, speed, and cost when doing renovations on investment properties?
So for me, it's more depending on the situation again.
Mhm.
Um, right now, we're trying to get things done a lot faster. Um, we've been doing a lot of traveling lately, and so we've finished 3 properties already this year, um, and everything within a month. So we're trying to get things done a lot faster. That being said, when it comes to how much somebody's going to charge me, I always, because I already know about how much it should be or what it's going to take to actually get it done, I can kind of tell when people's trying to rip me off or not.
Right.
So I can tell when somebody is trying to just give me a ridiculous price, because I also like to quote all the way around. I usually get about 3 or 4 quotes before I choose one.
Right.
Um, and then and time also is a big concept, because everybody knows time is money.
Right.
So if one person might charge me, $200 more, but they're getting it done faster than somebody who charges me, $200 or $300 less, but they're going to take an extra day, $200 is worth an extra 2 days.
Right. No,
So
that makes complete sense. So you've stayed primarily focused in Elkhart so far. What advantages do you see being hyper local versus spreading out early?
one of the things is about Elkhart. Elkhart was small back then. It was a lot smaller than it is now. We have grown a lot, and we have gotten a lot more new investors. So staying local, being in the backyard, is a lot easier because you know the area. You know what properties are going to be worth more, which properties are going to be worth less. But again, which properties are going to cost you less, and you might still make some money off of it. So being an auction, we always look for certain streets. You know which streets are the bad streets, and which ones are okay, which ones are the best, and you go off of that. So especially in an auction where you don't see any pictures.
Right.
So um, being staying around here locally, we were able to make better decisions on the houses that we were buying,
Hmm.
because you don't want to go into new territory and have to learn all these new laws so quickly if you're just now starting. Uh,
Right.
Now we're trying to branch into Michigan again because with Michigan they have a little bit different rules, um, and it's a lot faster for me to get properties. So,
Okay, cool. So what are some of those differences that make it easier in Michigan?
so it's not that it's easier; it's that I get the product faster. So the houses, um, here you have to wait a whole year to get the house.
Mhm.
In Michigan, it's 30 days.
Okay. Oh wow, that's way better. And actually, my partner and I, Will wasn't able to be on today because he had a family thing come up, but he and I did a tax lien course that talked about tax auctions and kind of also did some state to state comparatives, and that was some of the things we realized that the I don't want to use the wrong terminology, but basically that period where people can the original owner can reclaim their property in different states. So like in your state, Indiana, you said that was a year originally that they can come. I think there's some states like that. I think I want to say like Texas is like super quick. Like I think that's like 30 days. Like, and I mean, I think Alabama too. Like you, I remember they have like where basically if you're in you can go into tax default status like very quick there. Versus I think in Florida, it's like you almost have to like not pay for like a while for like
Yeah,
over a year for so it's like slower to fall into the trap. Like I look, my home state's a great state to own. It's a bad state to rent because they can kick you out for if you're a bad renter, they can kick you out quick. But if you own the property, you're in there,
yeah,
for a while. Like it's hard to get you out. You know.
yeah. No, Indiana is pretty good for property, especially because there's a lot of land out here.
Mhm.
There's a lot of open land. But yeah, no, you're right. There's a lot of places that, like, a lot of states have different requirements, and so my dad, he actually did go and take a course in Texas. We all went down. We went to Houston, but he was the main one to go to the course. Um, and they do have different rules. I've actually met somebody from El Paso the day that we went to the GrowthCon.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, cool.
yeah, and she was telling me that yeah, there's a lot of people who will go to the auctions, buy houses, and then just wholesale them, and they sell them as is because you do get a fast return on them. Uh,
Yeah, no, I've heard that, and I've heard even doing it just to get bought back out too. Like the I think like Texas, paid a higher percentage. Too like that 10% you were talking about that your state paid, or then 15%. I want to say Texas was a higher one, too. So yeah, there was a lot. It was a lot of interesting stuff. I actually there's a company called Tax Lien Code.
mhm.
That, I wanted to go to it last year, but the event in my area was the day after GrowthCon, and like after you do 3 days of one event, you can't go into doing a 2 day workshop, and you're my brain was already fried from being out of town and everything. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to actually find one of those events this year because, like I said, I mean, I'm really curious about some of these other states and how it works. I like the aspect just of me buying the lien and getting cash back out, with the percentage, back on the money, because I just thought that was, real
yeah.
real safe way to invest. Like it's very there's like almost I mean, I want everything has some risk, but I mean, it's about as no risk as you can get.
Yeah, a lot of it is you can go in, buy a house, and even if you're gonna wait on that if you get that percentage back. A lot of the times there really isn't much risk unless you get land.
Right.
Then that's where you're like, okay, well, now I have this piece of land. Nobody's gonna buy it back from me, and so now I'm stuck with it. But you can build on it and double however much you make off of it. Because a lot of the times when you buy land around here, at least, I can still buy properties for or land for $1,000, $2,000.
Okay.
So for I think the last piece I bought was about an acre for 2,000. And so, I can build a house on it and then go ahead and sell that for 250 to
Right.
300 depending on what it is. So, you're going to make money back. Now, you're just going to have to put a little bit more money into it than
Exactly.
previously.
Yeah. Well, man, this has been a great, first half of talking to you. Before we wrap up part one and move on to part two, what would you say is the most important mindset shift someone needs to make if they want to succeed in hands-on real estate investing?
I think the biggest thing is people have to understand that there's different ways to make money in real estate investing. So there's not a single way, and you really just have to jump in. You really have to try to jump in, and you have to be willing to risk a few, sacrifice a little bit now, so that in the future you don't have to sacrifice anymore. And I think being going hands on in real estate, I think you really need to just learn as much as you can, learn a lot of the laws, um, and just try to do it. I mean, there's not really much anything else.
Right. No, and I think that's great. Yeah, no, that's definitely great advice because I mean, yeah, there's definitely multiple ways to exit, and I mean, you definitely learn so much from going. Man, this has been great. Before we wrap this part up of the episode, where's a great place for people to reach out to you if they're wanting to talk to you personally or get involved in some deals they're doing, or if they even want to invest in some of your deals? Where how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, if you can shoot me an email at Jeremy Jeremy 21416 at Gmail, or shoot me a text 574-347-2555. Um, and yeah, I don't really use much social media, so
Nah,
but I'm
hey,
trying.
yeah, your guy is doing it. So, a lot of the people that are doing it, they're not standing in front of a camera telling you how they're doing it. They're because they're busy doing it.
Yeah.
So man, look, I definitely had a great time in this episode. I appreciate everybody listening in. We're gonna you have a fun part two, so make sure you tune in and check out the part two of this episode with Jeremy Perez. I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you want to see me, come by one of my restaurants. I have Clean Eats located in Mobile, Pensacola, Shalimar, and Tallahassee. If you want to get in touch on some of my real estate deals, just go to the eliterealestatepodcast.com. We have a spot on the website where you can send us your information. If you have someone, if you'd like to be on the podcast, or if you have a land deal for us, because as I've been saying on every episode, Will and I are buying buildable lots in Escambia County, Florida, over here around Pensacola. So if anyone has any land deals around Pensacola that you want us to look at, we are actively buying them. I think I currently have about 6 lots under contract at the moment. So just to show you how active I am on buying them. I'm not saying I'm going to close on all 6 of those, but I'm always putting stuff under contract, doing my due diligence, and closing on stuff. I think we closed on 2 last month. We'll definitely close on something this month. So please shoot me those land deals. And then my last ask is please subscribe to the Elite Real Estate Podcast on YouTube. So we're trying to build our YouTube subscribers up. So please subscribe to the Elite Real Estate Podcast on YouTube. But man, Jeremy, this has been fun. I can't wait to dive into more stuff in part 2. So thank you for joining me today. And everybody, thank you for listening to the podcast. And we can't wait to see y'all in the next episode.